Hey you guys, welcome back. Let's go through the next round of the study guide. So we just did addition problems, we just did subtraction problems. Now we're going to go through and do all the multiplication problems. So looking at this, I have 5, so let me get the pen on there. There we go. Negative 5.28 times 1.3. So whenever I multiply, I got 5.28, 1.3. Notice how when I multiply, I don't have to line the decimals up. They can go anywhere. In fact, I can completely ignore the decimals until I get my answer. If this was 528 times 13, the math would be the exact same as it would be if I am thinking about it right here with the decimals here. The decimals only really affect your answer because I have to put a decimal in it. All right, so looking at this, 5.28 times 1.3, I'm going to go through and start multiplying. 3 times 8 gives me 24. Carry the 2. 3 times 2 gives me 6, plus 2 is 8. 3 times 5 is 15. Now look, I'm moving place values. I'm no longer in this 3 column. I'm actually going to move over to this 1 column. I'm going to put a 0 here so I can move over to the 1 column. Now I have 1 times 8 gives me 8. 1 times 2 gives me 2. 1 times 5 gives me 5. And now I'm going to go through and add these. 4 plus 0 is 4. 8 plus 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 2 is 8. 1 plus 5 is 6. Now, I have to go and figure out where my decimal is going to go. So looking through this, I have, the way I figure out where my decimal goes is I'm going to go and look at my problem. I'm going to go and see how many numbers are behind a decimal. So in this problem, I got 1, 2, 3 numbers behind a decimal. I want 1, 2, 3 numbers behind a decimal in my answer. Now I have to go through and see if my answer is going to be positive or negative. I have a negative number times a positive number. That's going to give me a negative answer. This is my answer right here. Let's look at the next one. Negative 0.927 times negative 2.6. So let me go and set up my multiplication problem. Oops, that's not right. Give that a quick erase. So I have 0.927 times 2.6. Again, notice how my decimals aren't lined up. In fact, I'm just lining up my problem with the right edge. The decimals don't have to be lined up because they only come into play whenever I'm trying to figure out where it goes in my answer. All the work is the same, regardless of whether there were decimals or not. Looking at this, I'm going to go and set this up. So 6 times 7, I'll go ahead and start multiplying. It's 42. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. Carry the 1. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 1 is 55. Carry the 5. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 5. And now I'm moving from the 6 over here to the 2. So I'm going to put a 0 right here so I can move over to this 2 and start multiplying. 2 times 7 is 14, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus that 1 is 5. 2 times 9 is 18, carry the 1. 2 times 0 is 0, plus that 1 gives me 1. Now I get to go through and add these up. 2 plus 0 is 2. 6 plus 4 is 10, carry the 1. 5 and 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, carry the 1. 8 plus 5 is 13, plus 1 is 14, carry the 1, and 2. Now, whenever I go and write my answer, I need to know where my decimal is going to go. I'm going to look in the problem and see how many numbers are behind the decimal in total in my problem. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind the decimal in my problem. I want 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind the decimal in my answer. And is this going to be positive or negative? Well, let's see. I have a negative times a negative. That's going to be a positive number. So this is my answer right here. Let's look over here at the last one. 2.3 times negative 5.914. Now, whenever I set up a multiplication problem, I'm not necessarily going to put the first number on the top. Sometimes I will. And again, if you do, you'll get the same answer either way. But to make sure you don't have any extra steps, unnecessary steps, I'm always going to put the number with the most digits on the top. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 digits. This has 2 digits. I'm putting this number up the top. 5.914 and then times 2.3. Again, if you didn't do that, you'd get the same answer regardless. This way just has fewer steps. So let's look at this one. 3 times 4 gives me 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 gives me 3 plus 1 is 4. 3 times 9 is 27 plus carry the 2. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2, 17. And now I'm moving over from the 3 over to the 2. So I'm going to put that 0 right there on that second line. So I can start multiplying with the 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 9 is 18. Carry the 1. I'm going to mark that out. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 gives me 11. And now I get to go through and add these up. 2 and 0 gives me 2. 4 and 8 gives me 12. Carry the 1. 2 and 7 is 9 plus 1 is 10. Carry the 1. 8 plus 7 is 15 plus 1 is 16. 1, 2, 3, and 1. Now I got to figure out where my decimal goes. I'm going to go and look at my problem, see how many numbers are behind a decimal in the problem. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind the decimal in my problem. I want 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind the decimal in my answer. And I have a positive times a negative. That's going to give me a negative answer. That's what I'm looking for right there. Now let's go and look through the division steps. So, looking at the division problems, I have 3.28 divided by 0.4. Now some kids, I've seen this happen this past week. They want to try and do this keep, change, flip thing because we all learned that phrase. But that'd be like keeping this, changing this to multiplication, and then flipping the decimal. I know how to flip a fraction. 1/2 would be 2 over 1. I don't know how to flip a decimal. That's because we don't. We don't flip decimals. This is a division problem, and we're not using that keep, change, flip. I'm going to give it a good erase so that we know we're not using it. We're not finding the reciprocal because there's no reciprocal of a fraction. Instead, this division problem, we get to use good old-fashioned long division, just like you learned in elementary school. So, the first number is the dividend. Second number is the divisor. The divisor is the one that actually does the dividing and is splitting up this dividend. So, the dividend, the first number, always goes inside the box. Let me write it over here actually. Dividend always goes inside the box. I'll go ahead and make the box for it. Perfect. The divisor goes on the outside. Now, if the divisor, this number on the outside, is a decimal and not a whole number, I can't do that. I gotta make it a whole number first. So, watch what I'm gonna do. This is 0.4. I'm gonna make it a 4 by moving that decimal one place. Look, now this number is 4. That's way easier and more manageable to do. Whatever I do on the outside, I have to do on the inside. I move this one space. I'm going to move this one space. So now let me rewrite it just for clarity. This new problem is 4 into 32.8. That's my new division problem. So I will even go and bring up my decimal because it's going to be right there in my answer. Notice how I just bring it straight up. That's where it's going to go. 4 into 3, can't do that. 4 into 32, however, goes 8. Notice how I put the 8 over the 2, not over the 3. We're talking about 4 into 32. I'm going to put it over that last number in the 32. All right, 8 over 2. 4 times 8 is 32. I'll subtract and get 0. I'll bring down the 8. 4 into 8 goes twice. Notice how the 2 is over that 8 that I just brought down. 4 times 2 is 8. I get 0, and there's nothing left to bring down. So I know I'm done dividing. My answer is going to be positive because I have a positive divided by positive. So this is my answer right here, 8.2. I don't move the decimal back where it was originally. I leave it exactly where it was after the move. Let's look at the next one. The first number is the dividend. It always goes inside the box, 86.42. Notice how I leave the negative off. That's because the negative really only comes into play when I'm trying to decide is my answer negative or positive. So just to make it simpler and clearer, I'm just going to leave it off. And before I circle my final answer, I'm going to go back and see, is my answer positive or is it negative? This one, a negative divided by a positive, is going to give me a negative, so I better not forget it. It's important. The divisor is the second number. It goes on the outside, 0.02. Now this is not a whole number, but I need it to be. Instead of 0.02, I want this to be 2. I'm going to make it a whole number by moving it 2 spaces. Whatever I do on the outside, I have to do on the inside. Move it 2 spaces. Now let me rewrite this problem. I now have 2 into 8,642. Wow, that's a big number, but way easier to do than 0.02. That's hard. So looking at this, I'm going to go through and divide. 2 goes into 8 4 times. Notice how I put the 4 above the 8. 2 times 4 is 8. subtract, bring down the 6. 2 into 6 goes 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract, I get 0. Bring down the 4. 2 into 4 goes twice. 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract, I get 0. Bring down the last 2. 2 into 2 goes once. 2 times 1 is 2. Subtract and get 0. There's nothing left to bring down. Perfect. I'm done. And my answer is negative because I have a negative divided by a positive. Notice how easy it is to forget that little step, okay? Try not to. Do your best, okay? Try your best not to forget it. And let's see. Oh, my decimal was here when I moved it. I could keep up my answer just so I'm really sure I didn't forget it. But you don't have to because this is now a whole number. You know this one? The dividend is over here on the left. It always goes inside the box. 12.06. 0.8 on the outside. Notice I leave the negatives off because I just really consider that when I get my final answer. A negative divided by a negative, that's just a positive. So I know my answer is going to be positive. Looking at this, I got 0.8. I wanted to make that a whole number, so I'm going to move the decimal one place. Moved it 1 here, moved it 1 here. So now let me rewrite the problem. I have 8 into 120.6. So let me go through. 8 into 1 I can't do. 8 into 12 though, that goes once. Notice I put the 1 over the 2 of that 12. 8 times 1 is 8. Subtract, I get 4. Bring down this. 8 into 40 goes 5. 8 times 5 is 40. I get 0. Bring down the 6. 8 into 6. Oh, let me bring up my decimal just so I don't forget about it. 8 into 6 goes 0. 8 times 0 is 0. Subtract, I get 6. Now look, there's no other numbers over here, but whenever I'm going through these and I don't get a nice finished number, I have to keep going. I'm going to add another 0 over here because remember, I could add as many zeros as I want. Let's look. So I'm going to bring down this 0 over here. This is now 60. So 8 into 60, that goes 7 times. 8 times 7 is 56. Minus, it's getting kind of small there. That's okay though. Whoops, it's going to do that, isn't it? Let me start over here. I got that 60 minus 56. I get 4. And then look, I am still not done. I have a remainder. I'm going to bring down that another 0. I'm going to put it over here though so we can see it. 8 into 40 goes 5. 8 times 5 is 40. And now I subtract and get 0. There's nothing left to do. This is my final answer, 15.075. All right, now, also my answer is going to be positive, like I said earlier, because I have a negative divided by a negative. Now, that's almost 15 minutes. I'm going to call that right there, and I'm going to see you guys in the next part of the video.